I thought I knew my wife. 7 years of marriage, a 6-year-old son, a life we built together from nothing. Then, my boy said 7 words at dinner that shattered everything. Mom's ring fell in the hotel room and the man picked it up. Just like that, I went from husband to detective, from partner to stranger in my own home. While she thought I was blind, I was watching. While she thought I was weak, I was preparing. And while she planned her exit with another man, I planned mine, with lawyers, paperwork, and a patience that would cost her everything she thought she controlled. This is the story of how a calm black man taught a rich white woman that the quietest revenge echoes the longest. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because you're going to want to see how this ends. I've always believed you can tell everything about a person by watching their hands. How they hold a wrench, how they touch their child, how they set down a coffee cup when they think nobody's looking. Eleanor's hands used to be gentle. I remember that about her first, how carefully she held things, like the world might break if she squeezed too hard. That was 7 years ago. Now her hands move fast, impatient, always reaching for her phone, always checking something more important than whatever's right in front of her. I notice these things because I'm a mechanic. I fix what's broken by paying attention to the small stuff everyone else ignores. A weird sound in an engine, a tire wearing unevenly, the way a bolt loosens just a little bit each day until suddenly everything falls apart. Our marriage has been making a weird sound for about 2 years now. I just didn't know what kind of damage I'd find when I finally looked under the hood. It was a Tuesday evening when everything changed, the kind of evening that feels like every other evening, ordinary, forgettable, the kind you don't mark on a calendar. I left the shop at 6, same as always. My hands still smelled like motor oil even after I'd scrubbed them 3 times. There's something honest about that smell. It's the scent of real work, the kind that leaves evidence on your skin. The drive home took 20 minutes through neighborhoods that shift from chain link fences to white picket fences, from corner stores to coffee shops with names like Brew Awakening. Our house sits right in the middle of that change, a compromise Eleanor's parents hated and I couldn't quite afford. Eleanor's car was already in the driveway when I pulled up. That was unusual. She'd been working late every Tuesday for the past 6 weeks, some project for the hotel chain she managed. High-end properties for people who think $300 a night is reasonable. The kind of places where they call the person at the front desk a guest experience coordinator instead of a receptionist. I grabbed my lunch cooler from the passenger seat and headed inside. The house smelled like the Thai takeout we'd been eating too much of lately. Pad Thai and spring rolls because neither of us had time to cook anymore. Daddy! Noah came running from the living room, his Spider-Man socks sliding on the hardwood floor Eleanor had insisted we install. He crashed into my legs with the full weight of his 6-year-old body, all joy and no brakes. Hey, little man. I scooped him up, even though my back had been complaining about that lately. Some things are worth the ache. How was school? We learned about butterflies. Did you know they taste with their feet? I did not know that. It's true. Mrs. Alvarez said so, and she knows everything. I carried him toward the kitchen, where Eleanor sat at the table with her phone in one hand and a fork in the other. She'd changed out of her work clothes into yoga pants and an oversized sweater. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a ponytail that made her look younger than 30. She glanced up when we walked in. Hey, I grabbed dinner. Hope that's okay. It's perfect. I set Noah down in his chair and leaned over to kiss her cheek. She turned her head at the last second so my lips caught mostly air. Small thing, easy to miss, but I'm trained to notice small things. I'm starving, Noah announced, reaching for a spring roll with both hands. Wash your hands first, buddy. He groaned, but slid off his chair and ran to the bathroom. Eleanor poked at her noodles without eating them. How was work? Busy, fixed a transmission on a Civic. Lady said it had been making a grinding sound for 3 months. 3 months? Eleanor's eyebrows went up. Why would she wait that long? Scared it would be expensive. By the time she brought it in, it was more expensive. That's stupid. That's human. I grabbed a plate from the cabinet. Sometimes people know something's wrong, but they convince themselves it's fine, easier than dealing with it. Eleanor's fork stopped moving for just a second. Then she kept eating. Noah came back and climbed into his chair, hands still slightly damp. He grabbed his fork and started talking the way only 6-year-olds can, jumping from topic to topic like a pinball machine. And then Tyler said his dad has a truck bigger than yours, but I said your truck is better because it's black and black is cooler, and Mrs. Alvarez said we should use kind words about everyone's trucks. I smiled and nodded, letting his voice fill the kitchen. Eleanor scrolled through her phone. Oh, Noah's face lit up. And Mom, remember when your ring fell in the hotel room and the man picked it up? The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. I felt it before I understood it. That sudden shift in the air that happens right before something breaks. Eleanor's whole body went still. Not the relaxed stillness of someone resting, the frozen stillness of someone caught. What hotel, buddy? I kept my voice light, easy, like we were still talking about butterflies and trucks. Noah shrugged, chewing his spring roll. The one with the big windows. You could see the ocean. Eleanor's fork clattered against her plate. Noah, sweetie, you're mixing things up. That was just a story I told you. No, it wasn't. Noah looked confused, the way kids do when adults try to rewrite their reality. I was there. I saw the red chair. Noah. Eleanor's voice had an edge now. Enough. But Noah didn't understand enough. He just knew what he'd seen, and he wanted to talk about it the way he talked about everything else in his small, honest world. The man had shiny shoes. They were by the door. I looked at Eleanor. She looked at her plate. And in that moment, in the space between Noah's innocent words and Eleanor's guilty silence, I felt something crack inside my chest. Not a dramatic explosion, just a quiet fracture, like ice breaking on a lake you thought was solid. Eleanor? My voice came out calmer than I felt. What hotel is Noah talking about? She set down her fork and folded her hands in her lap. When she looked up, her face had rearranged itself into something smooth and practiced. I'd seen this expression before, usually when she talked to her father on the phone. Marcus, can we not do this right now? She glanced at Noah, who was watching us both with wide, worried eyes. It was a work retreat. No big deal. I probably mentioned it to Noah and he's just confused about the details. I'm not confused, Noah said quietly. Finish your dinner, baby. Eleanor's smile didn't reach her eyes. And then you can watch cartoons before bed. The promise of cartoons was enough to distract him. He went back to his food, and Eleanor went back to her phone. And I sat there trying to figure out when my wife had become someone who could lie so smoothly, it looked like truth. The rest of dinner passed in a fog. I moved through it automatically, eating food I couldn't taste, nodding at conversations I couldn't follow, cleaning up dishes while Eleanor disappeared upstairs to finish some emails. When the kitchen was clean, I went to check on Noah. He was building a tower with his blocks in the living room, completely absorbed. I sat down next to him. Hey, buddy, can I ask you something? He nodded without looking up from his tower. That hotel you mentioned, the one with the ocean windows, do you remember when you were there? Noah thought about it, his small face scrunched in concentration. It was Saturday, when you were fixing Mr. Peterson's car. That would have been 3 weeks ago. Eleanor had said she was taking Noah to her parents' house for the afternoon. And Mom's friend was there? The man? Yeah, he was nice. He gave me a cookie from the little coffee place. My chest felt tight. What did he look like? Noah shrugged. Like a man. He had dark hair, and he smiled a lot at Mom. Did Mom seem happy? Yeah. Noah placed another block carefully on his tower. She laughed a lot. She doesn't laugh like that at home. The tower wobbled but held. Mine was falling apart. I reached over and ruffled Noah's hair. Thanks, buddy. Your tower looks great. Want to help me build it taller? In a minute. I need to talk to Mom first. I found Eleanor in our bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed with her laptop open. She looked up when I walked in, and for just a second, I saw something like fear cross her face. Then, it was gone, replaced by irritation. Marcus, I really need to finish this report. I closed the door behind me. What hotel was Noah at? I told you, a work retreat. With ocean windows and red chairs and some man who picked up your wedding ring? Eleanor snapped her laptop shut. He's 6 years old. He probably saw something on TV and mixed it up with something else. Kids do that. Kids also tell the truth when they don't know they're supposed to lie. Her jaw tightened. Are you seriously accusing me of something based on what a first grader said over dinner? I'm asking you to explain it. I don't have to explain anything. She stood up, crossing her arms. This is ridiculous. I work 60 hours a week trying to keep us comfortable, and you're creating drama over nothing. Then tell me there's nothing to create drama about. She stared at me, and I stared back, and the silence between us felt like standing on opposite sides of a canyon. Finally, she shook her head. I'm not doing this. I have work to finish. She grabbed her laptop and walked past me out of the bedroom and down the hall to her office. The door clicked shut. I stood there alone in our bedroom, the room we'd painted together when we first bought the house, the room where we'd celebrated anniversaries and argued about paint colors and made promises we both believed. The wedding ring on my finger suddenly felt heavy. I pulled out my phone and opened the calendar we shared. Eleanor was obsessive about updating it. Every meeting, every appointment, every obligation marked in color-coded detail. I scrolled back 3 weeks to that Saturday. Nothing, no work retreat, no hotel, nothing at all. Just blank space where the truth should have been. I sat down on the edge of the bed and let myself feel it. The weight of what I knew and what I didn't know. What I'd heard and what I'd seen. What Noah had said and what Eleanor hadn't denied. My hands were shaking slightly. I looked down at them. These hands that fixed broken things for a living. These hands that had held my son when he was born. These hands that had slipped a ring on Eleanor's finger 7 years ago when we both thought love was enough. They were still steady enough to do what needed to be done. I just had to figure out what that was. The next morning started before sunrise. I couldn't sleep, so I gave up trying around 5 and went for a run through the neighborhood while it was still dark. The rhythmic sound of my feet on pavement helped clear my head. By the time I got back, Eleanor was already in the shower. I could hear the water running as I made coffee in the kitchen. Noah shuffled in wearing his dinosaur pajamas, hair sticking up in every direction. "Morning, little man." "Morning." He climbed onto a kitchen stool and yawned. "Can I have the cereal with the marshmallows?" "Sure." I poured him a bowl and watched him eat, this small person who had accidentally torn my world apart just by telling the truth. Eleanor came down 15 minutes later, dressed for work in a gray suit that probably cost more than I made in a week. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was perfect. Everything about her looked smooth and controlled. She poured herself coffee and checked her phone. "I have an early meeting," she said without looking at me. "I'll probably be late again tonight." "Okay." She glanced up, maybe surprised by how easy that was. "Okay. Yeah, I'll handle dinner and bedtime." Something flickered across her face. Relief, maybe, or suspicion. "Thanks." She kissed Noah's head, grabbed her keys, and left. I listened to her car pull out of the driveway. Then I went upstairs to our bedroom. I'd spent half the night thinking about this, arguing with myself, trying to find a reason not to do what I was about to do. But every argument came back to the same place. I needed to know. Eleanor kept a leather travel bag in the back of her closet, the expensive kind with lots of pockets and compartments, the kind that cost $300 and made regular luggage look cheap by comparison. Her father had given it to her for her birthday 2 years ago. She used it whenever she traveled for work. I pulled it out and set it on the bed. My hands hesitated on the zipper. This felt wrong. Going through my wife's things, searching for evidence like I didn't trust her. But she'd already proven I shouldn't. I opened the bag. Inside, everything was organized exactly the way Eleanor organized everything. Toiletries in one section, chargers in another, a folder with work documents in the main compartment. I checked the pockets methodically, trying not to disturb anything. In the smallest inner pocket, wrapped carefully in a tissue, I found her wedding ring. I picked it up and held it in my palm. The diamond caught the morning light coming through the window. We'd saved for 6 months to buy this ring. I'd worked overtime every weekend. Eleanor had been so happy when I proposed. She'd cried for 20 minutes straight. Now it was hidden in a travel bag like something shameful. I stood there holding it, trying to understand what it meant. Maybe she took it off because it bothered her while working. Maybe the hotel had a pool and she didn't want to risk losing it. Maybe she took it off because it was easier to pretend she wasn't married. Noah called from downstairs. "Dad, I need help with my shoes." I wrapped the ring back in the tissue paper and placed it exactly where I'd found it. Zipped the bag, put it back in the closet. Then I went downstairs to help my son tie his shoes and pretend everything was fine. But as I knelt in front of Noah, pulling his laces tight, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront Eleanor. I wasn't going to yell or cry or make a scene. I was going to do what I did best, pay attention to the small things everyone else ignores, document what's broken, and figure out how to fix what can be fixed, and walk away from what can't. The hardest part about knowing something is pretending you don't. I dropped Noah off at school that morning, watching him run toward the playground with his backpack bouncing against his shoulders. Mrs. Alvarez stood by the door, greeting each kid with the same warm smile. She waved at me, and I waved back, and everything looked normal. That's what I needed. Normal. I went to work and crawled under cars and listened to engines and focused on problems I could actually solve. A brake pad here, an oil change there. Things that made sense. Around lunch, I sat in my truck in the parking lot behind the shop and pulled out my phone. My fingers hovered over the search bar. Divorce lawyers near me. I stared at those words for a full minute before I pressed search. The results came up, pages and pages of law firms with professional photos and promises about fighting for your rights and protecting what matters most. I clicked on the first one, then the second, then the third. Most of them offered free consultations. By the time my lunch break was over, I'd filled out contact forms on 3 different websites. I went back to work and tried not to think about what I'd just started. The first lawyer called me back that evening while I was making dinner. Eleanor had texted to say she'd be late. Surprise? So it was just me and Noah. I stepped out onto the back porch to take the call while Noah watched cartoons. "Mr. Hill, this is Jennifer Rodriguez from Rodriguez Family Law. I got your inquiry about a consultation." Her voice was professional but not cold, efficient but not rushed. "Yeah, thanks for calling back. Of course, I wanted to touch base and see if we could schedule a time to talk through your situation. I do evening video calls if that works better for your schedule." "That would be good." "Great. I have an opening tomorrow at 8 p.m. Would that work?" Tomorrow. That was fast. Maybe too fast. Or maybe exactly the speed I needed before I lost my nerve. "That works." "Perfect. I'll send you a secure link for the call, just so you know what to expect. The consultation usually takes about 45 minutes. I'll ask you some questions about your marriage, your finances, and your goals for the outcome." Everything we discuss is confidential, and there's no obligation to hire me afterward. This is just about giving you information so you can make informed decisions. Does that sound okay? Yeah, that sounds good. Any questions before we hang up? I looked through the window at Noah, who was laughing at something on TV. His whole face lit up when he laughed. He had my smile and Eleanor's eyes, and no idea that his parents' marriage was falling apart. How long does this usually take? The whole process? It varies. In California, there's a mandatory 6-month waiting period from when the papers are filed until the divorce can be finalized. But the actual negotiations around custody and assets can take longer depending on how cooperative both parties are. 6 months minimum, half a year of living in this limbo, pretending everything was fine while lawyers argued about who got what. Okay? Thanks. I'll send that link shortly. Take care, Mr. Hill. She hung up, and I stood there on the porch in the cooling evening air, trying to figure out how my life had gotten here. 11 days ago, I'd been a married man who believed his wife when she said she was working late. Now, I was talking to divorce lawyers and searching my wife's luggage and keeping secrets from my own kid. I went back inside. Noah had fallen asleep on the couch, curled up with his favorite blanket. I turned off the TV and carried him upstairs to his room, pulling the covers up to his chin. He stirred when I kissed his forehead. Love you, Dad. Love you too, buddy. His eyes were already closed again. I stood in his doorway for a while, just watching him sleep. His room was full of the things he loved: dinosaur posters, building blocks, books about space and animals and superheroes who saved the day. He trusted the world to be a good place. I wanted to keep it that way for as long as possible. Eleanor got home around 10. I was in the living room with my laptop, supposedly watching a show, but actually researching California custody laws. She dropped her purse on the table and kicked off her heels. Hey, hey, there's leftover pasta in the fridge if you're hungry. I ate at the Ayer office. She stretched, rolling her shoulders. Long day. Yeah? Yeah, we're finalizing the contract on a new property in Santa Barbara. Lots of details to iron out. She said it so easily, so casually, like lying had become as natural as breathing. I closed my laptop. How's that going? The Santa Barbara property? Good. Really good, actually. It's going to be one of our flagship locations. You mentioned working with a consultant on it? Her expression didn't change, but something shifted behind her eyes, something careful. A few consultants. Why? Just curious. You've been spending a lot of time on it. That's the job. She walked toward the stairs. I'm exhausted, going to shower and crash. Eleanor? She stopped, hand on the railing. Yeah? Noah had a good day at school. He built a volcano for science class. Her face softened slightly. That's great. I'll ask him about it tomorrow. She went upstairs, and I sat there alone with my laptop and my suspicions, and the echo of her lies hanging in the air. The next evening, after I'd put Noah to bed and Eleanor had locked herself in her office with urgent work, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and clicked the video call link Jennifer Rodriguez had sent. Her face appeared on screen. Professional, mid-40s with kind eyes and the kind of direct gaze that made you feel like she'd heard everything before and nothing would shock her. Mr. Hill, good to see you. How are you doing? Hanging in there? That's honest. I appreciate that. She had a notepad in front of her. So, let's start with the basics. You're married to Eleanor Whitmore Hill, is that correct? Yeah, 7 years. And you have one child together? Noah, he's 6. Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about what's brought you to this point? What's happened that's made you consider divorce? I'd thought about how to answer this, how much to say, how much to admit out loud. I think my wife is having an affair. Jennifer's expression didn't change. What makes you think that? I told her about Noah's comment at dinner, about the hotel with ocean windows, about the wedding ring hidden in the travel bag, about Eleanor's lies and late nights and the way she'd stopped looking at me like I was someone she chose. Jennifer took notes while I talked, nodding occasionally. Have you confronted her about this? She asked when I finished. Briefly, she denied it, said Noah was confused. Do you believe that? No. Why not? Because Noah doesn't know how to lie yet, and Eleanor does. Jennifer set down her pen. Mr. Hill, Marcus, I need to be straight with you about something. In California, we have what's called no-fault divorce. That means it doesn't actually matter if she's having an affair or not. The court doesn't care about adultery when it comes to dividing assets or determining custody. That hit me harder than I expected. It doesn't matter? Not legally. Now, if you can prove she's spending marital assets on an affair partner or if her behavior is affecting Noah's well-being, that might be different. But generally speaking, the reason for the divorce doesn't change the outcome. I absorbed that. So, what does matter? Your financial situation, your living arrangements, your relationship with Noah and your ability to provide stable care, your wife's relationship with Noah and her ability to do the same, whether you can reach an agreement about custody and support, or if we need to go to court. She paused. Tell me about your finances. Do you work? I'm a mechanic. I own part of the shop. 20%. I make about $65,000 a year. And your wife? She's an executive at Whitmore Luxury Hotels. Her family owns the company. She makes around $200,000 plus bonuses. Jennifer's eyebrows went up slightly. Okay. And the house you live in, is it jointly owned? Eleanor's parents bought it. We pay them a reduced rent. It's technically their property. What about savings, retirement accounts, other assets? We have a joint checking account, maybe 20,000 in it. Eleanor has her own account too, but I don't know what's in it. She handles most of the finances. Jennifer made more notes. And in terms of custody, what are you hoping for? This was the question that mattered, the only question that really mattered. I want to be in Noah's life, really in it, not every other weekend, not some visitor who shows up for holidays. He's my son. I understand, and I want you to know that California courts favor shared custody arrangements when both parents are fit and able to care for the child. The fact that your wife makes more money doesn't automatically give her an advantage. Something in my chest loosened slightly. Really? Really? Courts care about stability, consistency, and the child's best interest. If you can demonstrate that you're an involved, capable parent, which it sounds like you are, then you have a good foundation for shared custody. We talked for another 30 minutes about timelines and costs and what to expect. Jennifer explained that her retainer was $5,000, which made my stomach drop, but she also said some lawyers offered payment plans. By the time the call ended, my head was spinning with information and my chest felt heavy with the weight of what I was about to do. One more thing, Marcus, Jennifer said before we hung up. I know this is overwhelming, but I want you to remember something. Choosing to leave a marriage that's broken isn't giving up. It's choosing to build something healthier for yourself and your son. There's courage in that. Her words stayed with me after the screen went dark. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, thinking about courage and choices and what kind of example I wanted to set for Noah. Then, I opened my email and sent Jennifer a message. I want to move to forward. Let me know what you need from me. I hit send before I could second guess myself. The rest of the week passed in a strange double life. During the day, I went to work and dropped off Noah and picked him up and made dinner and helped with homework. At night, while Eleanor worked in her office, I filled out forms for Jennifer and gathered documents, pay stubs, tax returns, bank statements, everything she needed to build my case. Eleanor didn't notice, Or if she did, she didn't care enough to ask. She'd been home late every night, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all late. She'd come in smelling like expensive restaurant food and hotel lobby perfume, tired, but somehow energized in a way she never was at home. On Friday, I tested something. Hey, I said over breakfast while Noah ate his cereal. I was thinking maybe we could do something this weekend. The three of us. Go to the beach, maybe? Noah's been asking. Eleanor didn't look up from her phone. Can't. I have to go. Into the office tomorrow. Big presentation on Monday. On Saturday? Yeah, sorry. She finally glanced at me. Maybe next weekend? Sure, next weekend. She smiled and went back to her phone. Noah looked at me across the table, disappointed. Can we go? Just us? Yeah, buddy, we can go. Cool. He went back to his cereal, happy again. Eleanor didn't even hear the exchange. That afternoon, I got an email from Jennifer. She'd drawn up initial divorce papers and needed me to review them before filing. Everything was there in legal language: petition for dissolution of marriage, request for shared custody, division of assets. I read through it twice, making sure I understood what I was signing. Then I signed it electronically and sent it back. Jennifer responded within an hour. Papers will be filed Monday morning. After that, Eleanor will be served within a few days. I recommend being prepared for her reaction. Do you have somewhere you can stay if things get difficult? I hadn't thought about that. I pulled up apartment listings and started searching. Found a few places near Noah's school. Nothing fancy, but clean and safe and available. One-bedroom units I could afford on my salary. I called the closest one and asked about availability. We have a unit opening up in 2 weeks, the property manager said. Would you like to schedule a showing? Yeah. Tomorrow, if possible. Tomorrow works. How's 11 a.m.? Perfect. So on Saturday morning, while Eleanor was allegedly at the office and Noah was with my mom, I drove to a small apartment complex 3 miles from our house and met a woman named Patricia who showed me a first-floor unit with beige carpet and white walls and windows that looked out onto a courtyard with a playground. It was a third of the size of the house we lived in now. It felt like freedom. The rent is $1,600 a month, Patricia said. First and last month required to move in, plus a security deposit. That would drain most of my savings, but I'd make it work. Can I put down a deposit to hold it? Sure, $500 and it's yours. I wrote the check right there, standing in the empty living room, trying to picture Noah's toys scattered on this carpet and his drawings taped to these walls. It looked possible. It looked like peace. I left the apartment complex and drove around for a while, just thinking, processing, trying to wrap my head around the fact that in 2 weeks I'd be moving into that small unit and Noah would split his time between two homes and Eleanor would have to face the consequences of her choices. Eventually, I ended up at the park near our house. I sat on a bench and watched other families, parents pushing kids on swings, couples walking dogs, teenagers playing basketball, normal Saturday afternoon stuff. My phone buzzed. A text from Eleanor. Presentation went well. Taking the team out for drinks to celebrate. Don't wait up. Stared at that message. Taking the team out for drinks. Right. I typed back. Okay, have fun. Then I deleted it and typed, who's on your team for this project? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, just some people from development and consulting. Why? Just curious. The dots danced for a long time before her response came through. Marcus, what's going on with you lately? You've been acting weird all week. I almost laughed. I typed, nothing, just tired. Enjoy your drinks. She didn't respond. I sat on that bench until the sun started to set, watching families pack up and head home, and I let myself feel everything I'd been pushing down all week. The hurt, the anger, the betrayal, the fear of what came next, but underneath all of that, buried deep was something else. Relief, because finally, I was doing something about it. I was taking back control in the only way I knew how, quietly, carefully, one step at a time. Just like fixing a broken engine. You don't rush it, you don't force it, you just take it apart piece by piece until you find the damage, and then you decide what's worth saving and what needs to be replaced. Sunday morning, Eleanor slept until noon. I made pancakes for Noah and let him pour in the chocolate chips himself, even though he added way too many. We ate them at the kitchen table while the sun streamed through the windows, and he told me about a dream he'd had where dinosaurs could fly. That would be scary, I said. Nah, they'd be nice dinosaurs. They'd give people rides to school. That would save gas. He giggled and took another bite, chocolate smearing across his chin. These were the moments I was fighting for. These small, perfect mornings when nothing was complicated and everything made sense in the simple logic of a 6-year-old's world. Eleanor finally came downstairs around 1, wearing sweatpants and looking tired in a way that sleep didn't fix. She poured herself coffee and scrolled through her phone, barely looking at either of us. "Good morning," I said. "Morning." She took a long sip. "What's the plan today?" "Thought I'd take Noah to the beach. Wanna come?" She shook her head. "I have a headache. You guys go ahead." Noah's face fell for just a second before he brightened again. "Can we build a big castle?" "The biggest." We left an hour later, and I didn't bother asking Eleanor if she needed anything before we went. She'd already retreated back upstairs with her coffee and her phone and whatever secrets she was keeping. The beach was crowded with weekend families. Kids ran in and out of the waves, screaming with delight. Couples walked hand in hand. Groups of teenagers played volleyball. Noah and I found a spot near the water and got to work on the castle. He dug the moat while I packed sand into the main structure. The sun was warm, and the sound of the waves was steady, and for a few hours I could almost forget about divorce papers and hidden wedding rings and the way my marriage had crumbled so quietly, I'd barely noticed until it was too late. "Dad?" Noah looked up from his digging. "Are you and Mom fighting?" My hands stopped moving. "Why do you ask that?" He shrugged, concentrating on his moat. "You guys don't talk anymore, not like Tyler's parents. They talk all the time. Sometimes they're loud, but they're always talking." I sat back on my heels, trying to figure out how to answer honestly without saying too much. "Sometimes grown-ups go through hard times," I said finally. "It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. You know that, right?" "I know." He kept digging. "But are you fighting?" "We're figuring some things out." "Like what?" "Like what makes us happy." He thought about that, his small face serious. Then he looked up at me with those eyes that were too much like Eleanor's. "Does it make you happy when I'm around?" My chest tightened. "Buddy, you make me happy every single day. That's never going to change, no matter what else happens. You understand?" "Yeah." He smiled, my smile on his face, and went back to digging. "Can we get ice cream after this?" "Definitely." We finished the castle and decorated it with shells. Noah ran to the water to fill his bucket, and I took a picture of him standing next to his creation, proud and messy and completely unaware that his whole life was about to change. I sent the picture to my mom with a message, "Making memories." She responded immediately, "He's beautiful, Marcus. You're doing good." I wanted to believe that. Monday morning arrived with the weight of what I knew was coming. Jennifer had said the papers would be filed today. Eleanor would be served within a few days, maybe at work, maybe at home, maybe somewhere in between. I'd started the countdown without telling her it had begun. At breakfast, Eleanor was already dressed for work, checking her phone between sips of coffee. Noah ate his cereal quietly, still tired from the beach yesterday. "I might be late again tonight," Eleanor said. "We're closing the Santa Barbara deal." Okay. She glanced at me, maybe surprised by the lack of questions. Okay? Yeah, I'll handle dinner. Something flickered across her face. Confusion or suspicion, I couldn't tell. But she just nodded and grabbed her keys. Bye, Noah. Bye, Mom. She left without kissing either of us. I drove Noah to school and walked him to his classroom. Mrs. Alvarez was setting up the day's activities, colorful papers spread across tables. Good morning, Marcus, she said warmly. How was your weekend? Good. We went to the beach. That sounds lovely. She looked at me a little closer, the way teachers do when they're trained to notice things. Everything okay? I almost said yes automatically, but Mrs. Alvarez had kind eyes and a gentle manner, and something about her genuine concern made me pause. Just some family stuff we're working through. She nodded, understanding in her expression. Well, Noah's a wonderful kid. Whatever you're working through, he's lucky to have you. Thanks. That means a lot. Noah ran off to join his friends, and I left before my emotions could catch up with me. Work was busy enough to keep me distracted. 3 oil changes, 2 brake jobs, and a timing belt replacement on a Honda that fought me every step of the way. By the time I took a lunch break, my hands were sore and my back ached, and my phone had 2 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize. I called it back. Mr. Hill, this is Jennifer Rodriguez. Just wanted to let you know the papers were filed this morning. Everything went through smoothly. My stomach dropped even though I'd known this was coming. Okay. The process server will attempt to deliver them to Eleanor within the next few days. They'll try her workplace first. I wanted to give you a heads up so you're prepared. What should I expect? Honestly, she'll probably be shocked, angry. People react differently, but it's rarely calm. My advice is to stay measured. Don't engage if she tries to argue. Just let her know you're willing to work together for Noah's sake, but you're serious about this. Okay. And Marcus, make sure you have somewhere to go if things get heated. Do you have family nearby? My mom, and I put a deposit on an apartment. Good, that's good. You're being smart about this. She paused. How are you holding up? No one had asked me that in a while. The question caught me off guard. I'm managing. That's honest. Call me if you need anything, okay? Even just to talk through things. I will, thanks. I hung up and sat in my truck, staring at nothing. It was real now. Legally, officially real. My marriage was ending. I went back to work and buried myself in engines and oil changes and problems I could fix with my hands. Tuesday evening, Eleanor came home at a normal time for the first time in a weeks. She walked in while I was making spaghetti, and something about her energy was different, tense, coiled. Hey, she said. Hey, dinner's almost ready. She set her purse down slowly. We need to talk. My heart rate picked up, but I kept stirring the sauce. Okay, not here. After Noah goes to bed. Fine. She went upstairs without another word. Noah and I ate dinner together while Eleanor stayed in her office. He talked about school and his friend Tyler and a book Mrs. Alvarez had read to the class about a bear who was scared of the dark. I'm not scared of the dark, Noah said confidently. I'm brave. You are brave. The bravest kid I know. After dinner, I gave Noah a bath and read him 3 stories, one more than usual because I needed the extra time to prepare for whatever was coming. He fell asleep halfway through the 3rd book, curled up with his stuffed elephant. I kissed his forehead and turned off the light. Eleanor was waiting in the living room. When I came downstairs, she sat on the couch with her arms crossed, her face a mixture of anger and something else I couldn't quite read. I got served today, she said flatly. At work, in front of my entire team. I sat down in the chair across from her. I'm sorry it happened that way. You're sorry? Her voice rose. You filed for divorce without even talking to me first, and you're sorry? I tried talking to you. You lied. About what? That stupid hotel thing Noah mentioned? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're blowing up our entire life over something a 6-year-old said? You were at a hotel with another man. Noah saw him. You took off your wedding ring. Eleanor's face went very still. How do you know about the ring? I found it. In your travel bag. You went through my things? Her voice was sharp now, cutting. What gives you the right? What gives you the right to cheat on me? The word hung in the air between us. Eleanor stood up, pacing. I haven't cheated on anyone. Don't lie to me, not now. I'm not lying. Then explain the hotel. Explain the ring. Explain why you've been working late every night for 2 months. Explain why Noah says you laugh with this guy in a way you don't laugh at home anymore. She stopped pacing. Her hands were shaking. It's complicated. Then uncomplicate it. She pressed her fingers against her temples like she had a headache. When she finally looked at me, her eyes were wet. His name is Daniel. He's a consultant on the Santa Barbara project. We've been, I don't know, talking, meeting for coffee. It's not what you think. What do I think? That I'm some terrible person who doesn't care about you or Noah or our marriage, that I'm just throwing everything away. Are you? No, but she didn't sound sure. It's just, God, Marcus, do you know how exhausting it is to be married to you? That hit harder than I expected. Exhausting? You're so steady, so calm, so perfectly content with everything exactly as it is. You never want more. You never push for anything. You're just there, every day, the same. I stared at her. I thought that's what marriage was supposed to be, showing up, being steady. It's boring, Marcus. The words burst out of her like she'd been holding them in for years. It's suffocating. I feel like I'm drowning in this perfect little life where nothing ever changes and nothing ever gets better and you're just okay with it. You never said you weren't okay with it. Because you wouldn't understand. You're happy fixing cars and coming home and playing with Noah and watching TV. That's enough for you. But it's not enough for me. It's never been enough. The silence after that was deafening. So, what are you saying? My voice came out quieter than I meant it to. That you've been unhappy this whole time? Not the whole time. She wiped her eyes. At first, it was good. You were different from everyone I'd ever dated. You didn't care about my family's money or my job or any of that. You just saw me. It felt real. And now? Now I don't know what it feels like. She sat back down, deflated. I don't know if I love you anymore, Marcus. I don't know if I ever really did, or if I just loved that you were different. Each word was a small cut. What about Noah? I love Noah. Of course I love Noah. Then why risk all of this? Why bring someone else into our lives? Why lie about it? Because Daniel makes me feel alive. She looked up at me, desperate for me to understand. When I'm with him, I feel like I matter, like I'm interesting, like there's still possibility in my life instead of just routine. I sat there trying to process what she was saying, trying to find something to hold on to. Did you sleep with him? She hesitated. That hesitation was an answer. Once, she whispered, last month, at the hotel. The room tilted slightly. Noah was there. He was in the other room watching TV. He didn't know he was there, Eleanor. I stood up, needing to move. You brought our son to a hotel where you were cheating on me? It wasn't like that. Daniel wanted to meet him because... She stopped herself. Because what? Her face crumbled. Because I told him I might leave you. There it was, the truth underneath all the other truths. She hadn't just cheated, she'd been planning an exit. I walked to the window and looked out at the dark street. Our neighborhood, the life we'd built, all of it suddenly felt like a set piece in a play that had ended and no one had told me to leave the stage. My parents were right about you. Eleanor said quietly behind me. I turned. What? They said you weren't good enough, that you'd hold me back, that marrying you was settling. Her voice was sad now, not angry. I spent 7 years trying to prove them wrong, but maybe they weren't. And there it was, the thing that had been lurking underneath our entire marriage. The thing I'd pretended not to see every time her father looked through me instead of at me, every time her mother asked when I'd find a real career, every time Eleanor introduced me to her colleagues and I watched them do the math. Black mechanic plus white heiress equals confusion. Your parents don't think I'm good enough because I don't come from money, I said evenly. Because I work with my hands. Because I'm black and you're white. And that makes them uncomfortable even if they'd never say it out loud. That's not fair, isn't it? Be honest, Eleanor. Would Daniel be a consultant if he was black? Would your parents approve of him if he looked like me? She didn't answer. That's what I thought. I grabbed my keys from the table. I'm going to my mom's tonight. I'll be back tomorrow to get Noah ready for school. Marcus, wait. No. I'm done waiting. I'm done pretending this works. I'm done being not enough for you. I stopped at the door. The papers I filed ask for shared custody, equal time with Noah. I'm not trying to take him from you, but I'm not going to be pushed out either. He deserves both of us, even if we can't stand each other anymore. I don't hate you, she said softly. I know. That's almost worse. I left before she could respond, driving through the dark streets to my mother's house on the other side of town. She opened the door in her bathrobe, took one look at my face, and pulled me into a hug. Baby boy, she said into my shoulder, come inside. I sat at her kitchen table, the same table I'd sat at as a kid, and told her everything: the hotel, the affair, the things Eleanor had said about being bored and exhausted and not enough. My mom listened without interrupting, her hand warm on mine. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. You know what your father used to say? She finally said. He said the hardest thing about being a black man in this world isn't the big, obvious hate. It's the small, quiet ways people make you feel like you have to earn your place at the table every single day. Like just being yourself isn't enough. I nodded, throat tight. Eleanor's family made you feel that way, didn't they? Yeah. And Eleanor herself? I thought about it. About 7 years of trying to be enough, of ignoring the small comments and sideways looks, of working overtime to prove I could provide, even though her family's wealth made everything I earned look like pocket change. Yeah, she did too. My mom squeezed my hand. Then maybe this divorce isn't about her cheating. Maybe it's about you finally deciding you're done apologizing for being exactly who you are. I stayed at my mom's that night, sleeping in my old bedroom that she'd kept exactly the same. The next morning, I went home early to get Noah ready for school. Eleanor was already up, making coffee. Her eyes were red. We didn't speak while I helped Noah get dressed and made his lunch. We moved, around each other like strangers sharing space. At the door, Eleanor stopped me. What happens now? Now we figure out how to do this the right way. For Noah. I never meant to hurt you. I looked at her. This woman I'd loved. This woman I'd built a life with. This woman who'd just told me I'd never been enough. I know, I said, but you did anyway. Then I took my son's hand and walked out the door. The next 2 weeks moved like a slow-motion car crash. You see it coming, you brace for impact, but it still knocks the air out of your lungs when it finally hits. Eleanor and I existed in the same house like ghosts haunting different rooms. We'd pass each other in the hallway and look away. We'd coordinate Noah's schedule through brief text messages. We'd sit at opposite ends of the couch when he wanted to watch a movie together, pretending everything was fine while our son sat between us, confused by the cold silence. Jennifer called me twice during that time with updates. Eleanor had hired her own lawyer, expensive, aggressive, someone her father had recommended. They were pushing back on the shared custody arrangement, suggesting instead that I take Noah every other weekend and one evening per week. That's not happening, I told Jennifer. I know, and we have a strong case for 50-50. You're an involved parent with stable employment and housing. The court will see that. What about the affair? Does that matter at all? Not really, but if we can show a pattern of her prioritizing her relationship with Daniel over Noah's well being, like bringing Noah to the hotel during an affair, that could help. Do you have any documentation? Just what Noah told me, and I found her ring, but I put it back. Okay, keep documenting everything. Times she comes home late, missed bedtimes, anything that shows inconsistent parenting. Not to be vindictive, but to build a record. So I started keeping notes on my phone. Simple entries, just facts. Tuesday, April 8th. Eleanor home at 10:15 p.m. Missed bedtime. Noah asked where she was. Wednesday, April 9th. Eleanor left at 6:45 a.m. before Noah woke up. I handled breakfast and drop-off. Thursday, April 10th. Eleanor canceled dinner with Noah. Said work emergency. Noah cried. Each entry felt like documenting the death of something that used to matter. The apartment came through right on schedule. 2 weeks after I'd put down the deposit, Patricia called to say it was ready. I spent a Saturday moving my things while Noah was at Eleanor's parents' house. Clothes, books, a few pieces of furniture Eleanor said she didn't want. The new place looked empty with just my stuff in it. Bare walls, quiet rooms, a kitchen with one chair at a table meant for four. But I set up Noah's room first, just like I'd promised myself. His bed, his toys, his books, his dinosaur poster. I made it as close to his room at the house as I could, so it would feel familiar, safe. My mom came. Afternoon with groceries and curtains and the kind of practical help only mothers know how to give. It's a good space, she said, looking around. Small, but good. Noah will be happy here. You think so? I know so, because you're here. She hung the curtains in Noah's room. That's all that boy needs. You showing up, being present, loving him exactly as much as you do. I helped her with the curtains, grateful for her hands and her words, and the way she'd always made me feel like I was enough, even when the rest of the world suggested otherwise. That night, I ate dinner alone in my new apartment, take out Chinese food on a TV tray in the living room, and let myself feel the full weight of what was happening. My marriage was over. My son would grow up splitting time between two homes. I'd be a weekend dad sometimes, a weeknight dad other times, always coordinating schedules and packing overnight bags and missing half his life. This wasn't the ending I'd imagined when I proposed to Eleanor 7 years ago, when we'd stood in front of her family and mine and promised forever, when we'd brought Noah home from the hospital and I'd held him in these same hands that now signed divorce papers. But it was the ending we'd earned. Both of us, her by choosing someone else, me by choosing myself. The mediation happened on a rainy Thursday morning in a building downtown that smelled like coffee and anxiety. Jennifer met me in the lobby, professional in her gray suit and calm demeanor. Ready? She asked. No, but let's do it anyway. We rode the elevator to the third floor in silence. Eleanor was already there with her lawyer, a tall white man in an expensive suit who looked at me the way Eleanor's father did, like I was temporary, replaceable, not quite worth his full attention. Eleanor sat next to him, her face carefully blank. She'd dressed for this. Designer clothes, perfect makeup, every inch the successful executive. The woman who had everything under control, except she didn't. The mediator was a woman in her 50s named Dr. Chen. She had kind eyes but a no-nonsense voice that suggested she'd seen this same drama play out 100 times before. Good morning. Thank you both for being here. I know this is difficult. She looked between Eleanor and me. Today, we're going to focus on two main issues: custody arrangements for Noah and division of assets. Our goal is to reach an agreement that serves everyone's interests, particularly your son's. Any questions before we begin? Eleanor's lawyer, his name was James Harrison, leaned forward. I'd like to start by proposing a custody arrangement that provides stability for the child. Given Mrs. Hill's financial resources and stable home environment, we believe Noah should primarily reside with her, with Mr. Hill having visitation every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. The words hit me like a punch. Visitation. Like I was a guest in my own son's life. Jennifer's voice was steady. Mr. Hill has been an active, engaged parent throughout Noah's life. He's the one who handles morning routines, school drop-offs, dinner, bedtime. He knows Noah's teachers, his friends, his favorite foods. There's no reason to disrupt that involvement. We're proposing a 50-50 split. 1 week with Mr. Hill, 1 week with Mrs. Hill, alternating. That's disruptive to the child's routine, Harrison said smoothly. Children need consistency, one primary home. Children need both parents, Jennifer countered, and Mr. Hill has already secured housing within walking distance of Noah's school, specifically to minimize disruption. Dr. Chen held up a hand. Let's hear from the parents directly. Mrs. Hill, can you tell me about your typical involvement in Noah's daily care? Eleanor glanced at her lawyer before answering. I provide for him. I make sure he has everything he needs. Good schools, activities, healthcare. I work long hours, yes, but that's so I can give him the best possible life. And who handles the day-to-day care? Morning routines, meals, homework? A pause. Marcus does most of that because of my work schedule. I see. And Mr. Hill, can you tell me about your involvement? I didn't need to think about my answer. I wake him up every morning, make his breakfast, drive him to school, pick him up most days, help with homework, make dinner, give him his bath, read him stories, put him to bed. That's been our routine since he was born. Has Mrs. Hill's work schedule always required these long hours? The last 2 years mostly. Before that, it was more balanced. Dr. Chen made notes. And during these 2 years, have you maintained this level of daily care? Yes. Even while working full-time yourself? Yes. My shop is flexible. I adjusted my hours to be there for Noah. Harrison jumped in. Dr. Chen, Mr. Hill's income is substantially lower than Mrs. Hill's. Approximately 65,000 versus 200,000. He can't provide the same standard of living. Standard of living isn't the primary concern in custody decisions, Dr. Chen interrupted. Parental involvement and the child's emotional well-being are. And from what I'm hearing, Mr. Hill has been the primary caregiver for quite some time. I watched Eleanor's face tighten. We went back and forth for another hour. Harrison kept pushing for primary custody with minimal visitation. Jennifer kept pushing back with facts, documentation of my involvement, Eleanor's absences, the importance of maintaining Noah's relationship with both parents. Finally, Dr. Chen called for a break. Jennifer and I stepped into the hallway. You're doing great, she said. Her lawyer's strategy is to use her money as leverage, but Dr. Chen sees through it. We're in a strong position. What happens if Eleanor won't agree to 50-50? Then we go to court and let a judge decide. But honestly, based on what we've presented, I think we'd win. Eleanor knows that too. We went back in after 15 minutes. Dr. Chen addressed Eleanor directly. Mrs. Hill, I need to be frank with you. Based on the evidence presented, a court would very likely grant Mr. Hill's request for equal custody. You have the financial resources, yes, but he has the track record of consistent, hands-on parenting. If you want to avoid a lengthy court battle, which would be expensive, time-consuming, and stressful for Noah, I'd recommend considering a shared arrangement. Eleanor's hands were clasped tightly in her lap. What if I increase my involvement, change my work schedule? That's admirable, but we make custody decisions based on established patterns, not future promises. You'd need to demonstrate sustained change over several months. Harrison whispered something to Eleanor. She shook her head. They whispered again. Finally, Eleanor looked at me across the table. Her eyes were red. Can we talk, just the two of us, for a minute? Dr. Chen nodded. Of course, we can step out. The lawyers and mediator left, closing the door behind them. Eleanor and I sat alone in that conference room with the rain pattering against the windows and 7 years of history heavy in the air between us. I don't want to drag this out, she said quietly. I don't want Noah caught in the middle of a war. Neither do I. But I'm scared, Marcus. I'm scared of losing him. You're not losing him. He's your son. That doesn't change. But half the time? Only seeing him half the time? Her voice cracked. How do I do that? I wanted to feel satisfaction at her pain. Wanted to point out that she should have thought about that before she cheated. Before she brought Daniel into our lives. Before she told me I wasn't enough. But all I felt was tired. The same way I will, I said. You show up for your time. You make it count. You love him as hard as you can when he's with you, and you trust that I'm doing the same when he's with me. She wiped her eyes. You really want this? 50-50? I want to be his father. Really be his father. Not a visitor. Not every other weekend. I want to be there when he wakes up scared from a nightmare. When he learns to ride a bike. When he brings home bad grades or good grades or needs someone to just listen. I want all of it, Eleanor. The hard parts and the easy parts and everything in between. You've always been better at this than me. That's not true. You're his mom. He needs you. But you're right. I haven't been there. Not really. I've been working and... She trailed off. And other things. Daniel? She nodded. It's over, by the way. He ended it when the divorce papers were filed. Didn't want the drama. She laughed bitterly. Turns out he was just as much of a coward as I was. I didn't know what to say to that. I'm sorry, Eleanor continued, for all of it. For cheating, for lying, for making you feel like you weren't enough. You were always enough, Marcus. I was just too stupid and selfish to see it. The apology came too late to fix anything, but I accepted it anyway. Thank you for saying that. Can we do the 50-50 without fighting about it? Yeah, we can do that. She nodded, composing herself. Okay, let's tell them. We called the lawyers and mediator back in. Dr. Chen looked between us, hopeful. We've agreed to shared custody, Eleanor said. 50-50. 1 week on, 1 week off. Harrison started to object, but Eleanor held up a hand. It's my decision, James, not yours. Dr. Chen smiled. That's wonderful. I think you're both making the right choice for Noah. Let's work out the specifics. We spent another 2 hours hammering out details, transition days, holiday schedules, summer breaks, who paid for what, all the logistics of splitting a child's life down the middle. By the time we finished, it was late afternoon. The rain had stopped, leaving everything wet and gray. Jennifer walked me to my car. You did good in there, she said. Really good. A lot of fathers wouldn't have fought that hard. He's my son. What else was I going to do? A lot of men would have accepted the every other weekend arrangement, convinced themselves it was easier. You didn't do that. You stood up for your relationship with Noah, and now you've protected it. That takes courage. I sat in my car for a while after she left, processing everything. The hard part was over. The legal part, anyway. Now came the harder part, figuring out how to be a divorced dad, how to tell Noah, how to navigate this new reality where his parents lived in different homes, and he had 2 bedrooms and 2 sets of rules and 2 separate lives that would never quite fit together the way they used to. I drove to the elementary school to pick him up, waited in the parent line with all the other parents in their cars, watching kids stream out of the building with their backpacks and art projects and the uncomplicated joy of 6-year-olds who don't know yet how heavy the world can be. Noah ran to the car when he saw me, climbing into his booster seat with a big smile. Dad, guess what? What, buddy? I got a gold star on my spelling test. Mrs. Alvarez said I did perfect. That's amazing. I'm so proud of you. Can we celebrate with ice cream? I looked at him in the rearview mirror, this perfect little person who was about to learn that his parents were separating, that his life was about to change in ways he couldn't understand yet. Yeah, we can definitely celebrate with ice cream. We went to the ice cream shop on Maple Street. Noah got chocolate with gummy bears. I got vanilla, even though I wasn't hungry. We sat outside at one of the metal tables, and Noah swung his legs while he ate, telling me about his day in the rambling, detailed way kids do. When he finished his ice cream, I took a breath. Hey, buddy, I need to talk to you about something important. His face got serious. Am I in trouble? No, not at all. You're not in trouble. I reached across the table and took his small hand in mine. You know how Mom and I have been a little, different lately? Not talking as much? He nodded slowly. Well, we've decided that we're going to live in different houses for a while. Mom's going to stay in our house, and I've got a new apartment not far from here. And you're going to spend time with both of us. Some weeks you'll be with me, some weeks you'll be with Mom. Noah's eyes filled with tears. Are you getting divorced? The word sounded too big coming from his mouth. Yeah, buddy, we are. Is it because of me? His voice was so small. Because I told you about the hotel? My heart broke. No, God, no. This has nothing to do with you. You didn't do anything wrong. You hear me? Nothing about this is your fault. Then why? How do you explain to a 6-year-old that sometimes love isn't enough? That sometimes people grow apart? That sometimes the person you married becomes a stranger, and you become a stranger to them, and the only way forward is to walk away? Sometimes grown-ups realize they're better as friends than as married people, I said carefully. Mom and I still care about each other, and we both love you more than anything in the world. That's never going to change. But we think everyone will be happier if we live separately. Will I still see you every day? Not every day, but a lot. I promise. And I've set up a room just for you at my new place. We can decorate it however you want. Can I bring my dinosaurs? All your dinosaurs and your books and whatever else you want. It's your room. He thought about this, processing in the way kids do, slow and careful, turning it over in his mind. Tyler's parents are divorced, he said finally. He says it's okay. He has 2 Christmases. I almost laughed. Yeah, you'll have 2 Christmases too. And 2 birthdays? We'll see about that. He was quiet for another minute. Then, will you still love me the same? I pulled him out of his chair and into my lap, holding him tight. I will love you exactly the same, every single day. No matter where I'm living or where you're sleeping or what happens, you're my son. That doesn't change. Ever. Understand? Yeah. His voice was muffled against my chest. You scared? A little. That's okay. It's okay to be scared. But I promise you, we're going to figure this out. Me and you. We're a team, right? Right. We sat there for a while, holding each other in front of the ice cream shop while the world moved around us, cars passing, people walking, life continuing like it always does, even when yours is falling apart. The first custody transition happened on a Sunday evening. I pulled up to the house, our house, though it didn't feel like mine anymore, to pick up Noah for his first week at the apartment. Eleanor met me at the door with his backpack and a grocery bag full of his favorite snacks. I packed extra clothes, she said, and his stuffed elephant. He won't sleep without it. I know. And he has a dentist appointment on Thursday at 3. I put it in the shared calendar. I saw it. I'll take him. She handed me the bags, and our hands touched briefly. We both pulled back like we'd been burned. Eleanor? She looked up. Thank you for agreeing to this. I know it wasn't easy. Nothing about this is easy, but her voice wasn't angry, just sad. Take care of him. Always. Noah came running out, his backpack bouncing against his shoulders. Dad, I'm ready. Let's go, buddy. He hugged Eleanor tight. Love you, Mom. Love you too, baby. Be good for your dad, okay? I will. We drove to the apartment in the fading evening light. Noah chattered about school and his friends and a new video game he wanted to try. Normal kid stuff. The kind of stuff that made you believe everything might actually be okay. At the apartment, he ran straight to his room to see the finished setup. I'd hung his drawings on the walls and arranged his toys exactly the way he liked them. This is cool, Dad. Can we build a fort? After dinner, how about spaghetti? With garlic bread? Is there any other way? We made dinner together. Well, I made it while Noah helped by stirring the sauce and talking nonstop. We ate at the small kitchen table, and afterward we built a blanket fort in the living room and watched a movie about talking cars. At bedtime, Noah brushed his teeth and put on his pajamas and climbed into his new bed with his elephant tucked under his arm. I sat on the edge of the bed and read him 2 stories. Dad? He said when I finished. Yeah, buddy? I like it here. Yeah? Yeah. It feels safe. I kissed his forehead. That's because you are safe. Always. Will you always live here? You won't move away? I'm not going anywhere. I'm 3 miles from your school. 10 minutes. From Mom's house. I'll always be close. Promise? Promise. He fell asleep holding my hand. I stayed there for a while, watching him breathe. This perfect little person who had done nothing to deserve any of this, but who would carry it anyway. Who would grow up with 2 homes and 2 bedrooms and parents who couldn't make it work. But he'd also grow up knowing he was loved. Fiercely, completely, by both of us. And maybe that was enough. The weeks turned into months. Summer came and went. Noah adjusted to the new routine better than I'd feared. 1 week with me, 1 week with Eleanor, transitioning on Sunday evenings. We figured out systems, shared calendars, email threads about school events and doctor appointments, brief, polite exchanges at drop-offs. Eleanor and I became friendly strangers, united only by our love for our son. I heard through mutual friends that Daniel had moved to another city, that Eleanor had thrown herself back into work, taking on new projects, traveling more, that she'd started therapy. I hoped it helped. I genuinely did. My life settled into a new rhythm. Work at the shop, Noah's weeks with me, occasional dates that never quite went anywhere because I wasn't ready yet. Sunday dinners at my mom's house where she'd ask how I was doing and I'd tell her the truth. I was managing, healing, moving forward. One evening, about 4 months after the divorce was finalized, I was waiting outside Noah's school for pickup when Eleanor pulled up next to me. She rolled down her window. Hey, hey, can I ask you something? Sure. She turned off her car and got out, leaning against it. For a minute, she just looked at me. Why didn't you fight me? She asked. When you found out about Daniel, when I said all those terrible things, you just left. You filed papers and moved out and handled everything so calmly. Why? I thought about the rage I could have unleashed, the public scene I could have made, the ways I could have tried to hurt her the way she'd hurt me. Because I didn't need to, I said finally. Fighting you wouldn't have changed anything. It wouldn't have made you love me again. It wouldn't have fixed what was broken. All it would have done is make everything messier and harder for Noah. So you just... What? took the high road? I took the only road that made sense. I protected my son and my dignity, and I walked away from something that wasn't working. She nodded slowly. That's what I always underestimated about you. Your strength. I thought because you were quiet and steady that you were weak. That I could, I don't know, do whatever I wanted and you'd just accept it. I'm not weak, Eleanor. I'm just not loud. I know that now. She looked down at her hands. For what it's worth, I think about that a lot. About how I treated you. About how wrong I was. The school bell rang, and kids started streaming out. I should go, I said. Yeah, me too. She paused. Marcus, thank you for being the kind of man you are. Noah's lucky to have you. He's lucky to have both of us. She smiled, sad but genuine. Then she got back in her car and drove away. Noah came running out a minute later, face lit up with his usual after-school energy. Dad, guess what? We're doing a project about family, and I get to bring in pictures of both houses. That's great, buddy. We'll pick some out tonight. He climbed into the car, already talking about his day, and I pulled out of the parking lot feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not the peace of everything being perfect, not the peace of problems solved and wounds healed, just the quiet peace of knowing I'd done the right thing, of knowing I'd fought for what mattered without losing myself in the process. I'd chosen dignity over drama, preparation over confrontation, self-respect over revenge, and in doing so, I'd taught my son the most important lesson I could. That strength doesn't shout, that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away, that you don't need to destroy someone to win. You just need to refuse to lose yourself. As we drove home through the afternoon traffic, Noah's hand in mine across the center console, I realized something else too. I was free. Free from a marriage that had been dying for years. Free from the weight of not being enough. Free to build a life that was mine. Small and simple and honest. And that was more than enough. It was everything. 6 months after the divorce, I saw Eleanor at Noah's school winter concert. We sat 2 rows apart, both of us watching our son sing off key with his class, both of us smiling at the same moments. After the concert, we stood together while Noah showed us his art project. You did such a good job, baby, Eleanor said, hugging him. Thanks, Mom. Did you see me in the front row? I saw you. You were perfect. Noah turned to me. Dad, can we get hot chocolate after? Sure. Your mom can come too if she wants. Eleanor and I looked at each other, and I saw in her eyes what I felt, that we'd made it through, that we'd survived the worst of it and come out the other side not as enemies, but as two people who'd loved each other once and now loved their son enough to make this work. I'd like that, she said. So the three of us went for hot chocolate, sitting at a small cafe while Noah told us about his plans to be an astronaut dinosaur doctor when he grew up. And for that hour, we were a family again. Not the same kind we'd been before, but a new kind, a broken kind that had learned how to function anyway. And that was okay. More than okay. It was real. As I drove home that night, Noah asleep in the back seat, I thought about everything that had happened, about the hotel room I'd never seen, and the ring wrapped in tissue, and the quiet decision I'd made to walk away with Grace. I thought about how the quietest exits often echo the longest. How patience beats rage, how paperwork beats theatrics, how sometimes love means knowing when to let go. And I realized that I'd won something better than revenge. I'd won myself back, and I'd kept my son. Everything else was just noise. The city lights blurred past my windows as I drove, and somewhere behind me, in a house that used to be mine, Eleanor was probably sitting alone with her regrets. But I wasn't thinking about her anymore. I was thinking about tomorrow, about pancakes with Noah, about the oil change scheduled for 9 a.m., about the simple, honest life I was building one day at a time. I was thinking about how far I'd come and how far I still had to go, But mostly, I was thinking about the small hand that would reach for mine in the morning, and the voice that would say, "Love you, Dad," and the fact that no amount of money or status or anything else could ever be worth more than that. I pulled into my parking spot at the apartment complex and carried my sleeping son upstairs, tucking him into bed one more time. Then I stood in my small living room, my space, my peace, my freedom, and I let myself feel it. Victory. Not the loud kind that announces itself, the quiet kind that settles in your bones and reminds you that you survived, that you're still standing, that you chose yourself, and that, in the end, was the only win that mattered.